All right, good evening, everyone. So this tonight we'll be talking about capacity planning, and we'll look at cover some areas. Um, we want to know what it means, what capacity planning means for a Scrum team. We want to understand capacity planning, data collection, what are the benefits, what are some factors that you need to consider when you're planning your team's capacity, how do you calculate your team's capacity, and then where can that be recorded on your project board also. We'll look at all those tonight and take questions as we go along. Okay. Right, so I'm just going to start with the simple definition of capacity itself. Yeah. So, capacity, sorry, before I go on, am I echoing? Can anybody let me know if I'm echoing or not?
You are a little bit.
Oh, you're not. A little bit. Okay. So, that's the fun. So I need to switch off that. What about now? Is it still echoing or it's more clear enough?
That's better.
Okay, cool. All right, so we want to look at the simple meaning of capacity itself, and is the realistic maximum amount or limit that a thing can hold or contain or produce. As you can see in the images on the left, I use the word realistic there because I can hold a 2 liter bottle and then say, oh, this 2 liter bottle, I can fill it with 3 liters of water. Now that's unrealistic because after it's filled, anything I pour inside will just be, pouring out. By the time I stop whatever the tap or whatever I'm using, the quantity I have is still going to be that 2 liters. There's no way it can take more than that when it is measured. And that's why I've used the word realistic. So in holding anything in an amount of anything in a container, or it has to be realistic and not unrealistic. And I would explain why the word realistic is coming in later on. Okay, so when we talk about capacity in agile or scrum, we're talking about, again, the word realistic is coming in. We're talking about realistic amount, the total amount of work that can be done, that a team can handle within a sprint. Okay. And while, again, I'm using that word realistic, is you can say, oh, the product owner can come, and that's the main reason for planning your team's capacity. A product owner can come and say, oh, I've got these 50 things I need you to do, or these 50 story points that you need to do in the sprint and all that. And you don't have the capacity to handle that. The team, with your help as a scrum master, is not going to bury their hand in the sand or unrealistically say, oh yeah, yes, we can do it. And at the end of the sprint, we commit to all that, and at the end of the sprint, we're not able to kind of deliver it. So whatsoever capacity we're talking about has to be realistic. Okay, so the process of determining the work, the amount of work that can be accomplished in a future sprint, is why you plan. So you want to plan the team's capacity, know the capacity, the actual and realistic capacity that a team has, and you take that into the sprint planning so that when the product owner comes with, workload that is more than the team can handle, you're able to say, oh, we won't be able to do this because realistically, this is our capacity. And then there's that negotiation to reduce, things and all that. And like I said, it's part of your role as a scrum master to negotiate that. That's part of your negotiation skills coming in. And you negotiating that is also shielding the team, from overload or overwhelming work that they might not be able to achieve at the end of the sprint, because you want them to do the amount they can conveniently and realistically work on, so that we don't have mistakes and we don't have a lot of bugs that would influence or affect quality, so to say. Okay, so it helps to determine that capacity that is required. You're able to analyze that capacity, and it helps you to get informed decision when you're planning and you're committing to work. So it is needed. You can't say, oh, bring the 50. If we don't have the capacity to do it, we're overworking the team. Or we can say, oh, bring 10, and we have more capacity to handle 10, and then the team is just, should I use the word, floating during the sprint and not having work to do because they have more capacity than the 10 efforts that has been put into the sprint. And this are part of the things why we need to plan capacity. So I'm just going to use an example of kind of a bakery to give us an understanding. I want to believe that even with the few that I've said, even without us going down the lane of using this bakery and all that to explain, we're able to understand. But let's just assume that there is a bakery with a, I don't know if it's a chef that runs or heads a bakery, but let's just assume that is who it is. A bakery that always produces, please bear with me, a bakery that always produces pastries at the end of the day. Okay, so they bring out pastries. Hold on, please. I just had to get rid of the background noise. Okay. So, and this bakery has to, their output at the end of each day is, let's say, roughly 20 trays, and they have 10 staffs. So that means one staff would give you an output of 2 trays at least. And this bakery delivers to, let's say, 10 stores. So an average of maybe 2 trolleys per store, sort of, depending on the size of the store they are delivering to. But let's just assume that they have 10 stores that they're delivering to every single day. And then they have 2 trolleys that go to that 10 stores. So that's, like we said, 20 trolleys is what their output per day is. And then the staffs are, you have 10 staffs and all that. Okay, so if we have a scenario where 2 staffs didn't turn up with work without prior notice, they didn't tell the baker, let me use that word, the baker, that, oh, they're not going to come to work and all that. They just didn't turn up because maybe they have an emergency or something like that. That reduces the output per day, isn't it? From 20 to 16. So that means about 2 stores or thereabout are not going to have delivery of pastries. Or even if the baker calculated and said, you know what, I will reduce the quantity that goes to all the stores so that he still delivers to all the 10 stores, but less quantity than he normally delivers to them. And that affects his own productivity, so to say. Now, with capacity planning, the baker has the opportunity to inform the customers early in a situation where he knows the availability of all his 10 staffs, that, okay, this one is not going to come in at this time and all that. If he doesn't want to get a temporary staff, maybe he just feels that would affect the quality of his product. If he doesn't want to do that, and there's no way he can push all the other staffs, all the other 8 staffs, to do more. The one of the things he can do is to prepare his end users, the customers, the client, to say that, oh, on this so day, these 2 days and everything like that, you will be getting less because of da 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 da. So that helps him because he's done that. That capacity planning had happened. He knows the availability. That helps him to also to prepare his customers, his client also, about what they might be getting at that time when that customer or that those staffs are not going to be, available. So those are one of the things. That's one of the things. There's just an extra explanation to tell us the importance of planning your team's capacity, knowing the availability of people before we commit to work that we want to do, so that by the time where the product owner knows that this is the capacity of the team that we have for the sprint and all that, he would have also prepared the client also. And guess what? Your product owner doesn't need to know about capacity planning at sprint planning, because at sprint planning, he had already discussed with the customers. He had already discussed with the client, the project sponsor, and all that, to say, oh, we'll be able to do this. But if you had planned the capacity, let's assume maybe a week or, yeah, roughly a week or maybe 2 to 3 days or thereabout before, the sprint starts, the capacity or the availability of the team because of the planning that you have done. You would have prepared that. Those are parts of how you support the product owner. You'll have prepared the product owner that whatsoever you're planning for this sprint, this is the availability, especially during, let's assume, summer time, when parents go, a lot of staff go on holiday, especially the ones with little children, they go on holiday. You have less people working and all that. So you need to prepare the product owner that, okay, remember, this is the summer period, a lot of people go on holiday and all that. And because of that, what we'll be working on might be less than what we normally work on. Now, that product owner also prepares the stakeholders to say that, oh, this is holiday time, people are not around and all that. So maybe if you're expecting us to give you this, we might only be able to do priority. Maybe these two are the priority that we can work on. So the stakeholders' engagement, the stakeholders' expectations is well managed because you provided the product owner with that information. Okay, so those are some of the things that we need to put in place. And guess what? Planning capacity as a Scrum Master. For Scrum Masters, you plan the team's capacity. For Agile Delivery Manager, you go beyond. So while the Scrum Master is planning the Scrum team's capacity, you are looking into the capacity of other teams that might need to work with the Scrum team in order for them to meet what needs to be done. I'll give you an example. We're working on a payments gateway and all that. Some of the things we need to release or deploy to prod needs encryption. That's security. You need to encrypt, the data that is being released and all that and everything like that. You need to work with other teams. You need to work with the security team. You need to work with the IT team. You need to work with the service desk and all that. That's still part of IT and all that. And you're looking at the team and the product owner. When do it might be an enhanced feature, okay? When does the client want this thing? Or the timeline is by the end of August, they need it and all that. You're talking to the tech lead. Where are we? What this work that we were taking in, this goal that we were taking in, what do we need to do? Tell me the breakdown. They've told you the breakdown. Who would be needed? Is it just the Scrum team to do this? Or would we need more than the Scrum team to do this? And then by the time they are telling you, oh, we'll need the security team to help us to do we'll need the infrastructure team to do in order for everything to work well and all that. You need the capacity. As an ADM, you need to know the capacity of those people so that you're coming back and then you'll see where the word realistic is coming in. You're coming back to say, if we need these people during this 2 weeks cadence of sprints that we have, we might not get anybody because those teams that you're talking about, they are full on. They have just 3 people working because all the others are on holiday. I've gone to them and they're saying, oh, there is no way we can give you somebody to work with, or they might be able to give you somebody to work with. And that helps you to know how to plan your work. So you're not bringing a user story or a requirement into the sprint where when the developer finished what they need to do and they need infrastructure now to help them to do something in order for them to deploy, they can't do it. And that user story sits in the sprint with blocked, tagged blocked, because it's not completed, even though development wise is completed, but they can't deploy it because another thing that is needed, their planning is not done. So while as a Scrum Master, you're planning for just the team, as an ADM, your plan includes every other team who are also key stakeholders to that work that is being done, that needs also to, be part of that development. Let me put it that way. It might be that they need to do some security to the system that is being done and all that. One of it, like I said, is an encryption and all that. And definitely your developers want to be the ones encrypting. because you are trying to secure data. It's not their job. It will be the job of the infrastructure, or the platform, or the data people, and things like that, and everything. So as an ADM, you're also planning the capacity of other people that need to work with the team, so that at the end of the day, you know if that thing will be deployed or not. Your planning, that it helps with your planning also. Okay, so and if you are Scrum Master ADM, then that means you'll be doing both for the team and also other people that the team needs to work with. So there are some few things that we need to understand when it comes to capacity planning. One of them is the team's capacity is based on team's productive hours. You might be wondering, what does that mean? Does that mean that there are some of their times that are not productive? When you say productive hours, it means productive time spent developing, productive time spent actually carrying out software testing. That's what we mean by productive time. That doesn't mean the other times they have during meetings and things like that is not productive. It is, but the productive that we're referring to here is when they're actually coding, when the keywords are actually carrying out manual or automation testing. That's the productive hours we're looking at here. Okay. And then capacity also is planned based on a team member's availability. So if a team member is not going to be available for the 2 weeks, you're not planning anything for that person. We'll just, put it there that this person is out for the whole 2 weeks. We can't plan for somebody that will not be part of the sprint. We can't plan work for that person. So if we have a team of 15 people and we know that 2 people are going to be on holiday for the whole 2 weeks, then our team availability is just on 13 people, not 15 people, because we already know. So it's all based on availability. Okay, and then, like I said, it is done for a Scrum Master 2 to 3 days before the sprint planning date. For an ADM, I would advise do it a week. If you are Scrum Master ADM, I would advise do it a week before the sprint plan, because I said you need also to factor in other team that you're working with. So if you have both ADM and Scrum Master in your team, the ADM would expect you as a Scrum Master to do it a week before, because she needs that information to work with other team members that need to align with what the team is going to work on. Okay, so that's how you can collaborate both Scrum Masters and ADM together. And then if you're one person doing both, it makes it easier, because you're just one person wearing two different caps, so to say. And then another thing that needs to be considered is the team members' full status in the team. Is this member a full team member, or is it a borrowed or a shared resources? So there are times when you have shared resources in a team. Let's assume you're working with data. You need the data guys to be in the team and all that. They might not be fully in your team. They might be in 3 different teams doing the same data analysis task and all that. So you want to meet with that person, know the percentage of their time that is going to be focused on your team's work, and you need to factor that into what you're doing, also the work that you're doing. It helps you also to know that, okay, if the data side of things, we need to do some data migration, or we need to do some data loading as part of what we need to do and all that, and this person can only work with us for some few hours a day and everything. It helps you to know how many of those data migration requirements that you want to bring into sprint, and that is also what you want to promise the stakeholders that you'll be able to deliver. So you won't promise them, oh, everything that has to do with the data migration will complete it, because you have a data analyst. If it's a borrowed resources and not a full team member, you won't be able to do that. So those are some of the things also you consider. Okay, and then another thing that helps on understanding is using the little sentence, if I can put it that way, at the bottom that says, let's use this, which is capacity that we might have. So capacity is a future thing. Okay. So it's not absolute. Anything can happen. I can tell you, oh, I'll be there for the 10 days. If I have an emergency, I'm not doing 10 days, but you can't blame me for it, because I have an emergency. Somebody a team member can fall sick, and yet they have full, you know that they have full availability. So sickness is not something that you can factor in. It's a factor that, is unpredictable. It can happen at any time. So that's why we say it's more of kind of an estimate, but an estimate that you can use to plan. Okay. So that's why I said a team capacity is an estimate of a future activity. The future activity is the next sprint that you're going into. Why your velocity measures your past activity. Your velocity is looking at, is saying that, oh, based on this previous sprint that you've done, you can do da 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 da. But your capacity works with your velocity also. I'll explain when we get there. Okay. Like when I was using the bakery, I used the bakery saying that the output per day is 20. That is based on all the other, outputs they've had in the past. That's how the baker had come to the conclusion that, oh, with my 10 staff, we can do 20, per day. That is their velocity. Their velocity is 20 trolleys of pastry for the 10 staffs per day. That's their velocity. Yeah. But they need now to use that to plan their capacity. Remember, I said that based on that velocity, they normally work. So they now need to use that capacity to know that can we still do that 20 trolleys based on the number of staff availability that we have. So you can use it to form a sentence that let's use this, which is capacity that we might have to achieve this work we want to do, which is your sprint goal, and then based on our past performance. So there's always on your velocity chart, you always see something that says, oh, average velocity. It's looking at all the other past sprints that you've had, the things you planned for, the things you completed, and it's added that together to say that, oh, going forward, this thing, your average velocity is so quick. At times, most times it fluctuates depending on how performing that the team is. Mostly your velocity is meant to be sustainable after a while, but it fluctuates, initially. I know that, which is okay. That's why it takes, I think, based on normal standard, you're supposed to use 6 sprints to actually decide that, okay, this is the team's velocity going forward. Okay, so that's how you can align your capacity and your velocity in order to help the team to plan properly for the sprint. Okay, so we want to look at how you can collect your data, things that you need to use to plan your the capacity. How can you collect those details from your team members? You can do it at a meeting. You can use a meeting, gather the team members all in a brief meeting, 30 minutes. I don't even think it should be up to that. But let's assume 30 minutes to collect necessary information. What is your day off? Do you have any holidays? Do you have trainings and things like that and so on? You can use that to do it also. And then it will now be you as the Scrum Master, noting those down and writing those down. You can create a spreadsheet. For Microsoft, it will be creating a spreadsheet and adding it to cloud and then sharing it with the team, and they will be the one populating those documents themselves. For anyone using Google Workspace, you can use create a Zell document on G Drive, share it with the team, a spreadsheet that everyone can everyone can put their details, into. And once that has been done, there is a particular date which all the team members, part of your ways of working is maybe by so time for a new sprint, a week before the new sprint, put in your availability. You'll still see some that would default and all that. So that means maybe you remind them on your collaboration, your communication channels, or even during stand-up to say, oh, sorry, please don't forget to, populate the spreadsheet and all that in order for us to, plan before the next sprint and things like that. So they can populate that also. And then also for new teams that are just starting, you also can train the team members, because they'll be wondering, oh, what's that for and all that. So you need to train them. We did this so that we can do da. That's part of why we do this training with you, Scrum Master, so that you have an understanding. And then when those questions come, within your team members, at least you're able to coach them or train them that this is why we need to do this and all that and everything, so that they have an understanding and they know how important it is for them to give those details, so that you can use that to plan the team's capacity. Okay, so then looking at some of the benefits that we have for planning your team members' capacity, you'll have better sprint planning. Okay, so like we said earlier on, once you have that, you're able to plan better. You're able your sprint planning, you're able to do it better once the capacity has been planned, because it helps you to know accurately, not accurately, but at least helps you to have an estimate number of what to commit to sprints, okay, and what can be achievable during the sprint, what can be completed. So you're not over committing and you're not under committing during the sprint planning, because you know the capacity for that sprint. Also, it helps you to improve your commitments. Okay, you're able to improve your commitments reliability. Over time, team members' commitment gets improved. You might have somebody that maybe you know that, okay, this person, every time we plan the capacity, maybe takes all Fridays off, maybe because of childcare, because of one thing or the other and everything. Looking at that capacity that you've planned over time, there's a pattern that you know and everything. So if in your team you have a tech lead that assigned work, that tech lead knows that, okay, when it comes to the sprints and all that, Muji takes all Fridays off or does have day all Fridays and all that. That helps you to plan, the kind of work that you give to them. So it gives you have some kind of reliability. Some team members that okay, this person during the whole year doesn't go on holiday until maybe July, August time. Yeah, so you know that, okay, anything that might be coming July, August might not be something that falls on, depending on that person's skills in the team also. So you might have a team member that is very good with technical system things and all that. And maybe that person is someone that normally leads the others that work on that. If that person is going on holiday, it helps a team lead to plan things better. Or do I want to bring in to step in? Or even for he himself to think, okay, if myself and James are the ones that do anything that has to do with, the technical aspects, the architectural aspect of things, when he goes on holiday, I stay, so that at least one of us is around in case there are any issue. If they don't plan their capacity, there won't be that, reliability for him to know that and to do that. So it helps to improve commitments wise, and who to rely on and how to rely on team members' commitment based on the pattern of the team's availability. It also helps to control scope creep. Okay, so scope creep is when additional work is being added to the sprint apart from what has initially been planned. So a team is able to control the creep, the increase that comes through the sprint based on negotiation with the product owner, because they know their capacity. So we've started the sprint, and then the product owner is coming in with more and all that. And then we're saying, oh, okay, so our capacity. This extra, if they take priority over anything that is in the sprint, then we need to reduce whatsoever we've initially planned in order for us to accept this additional one you're bringing in, if it takes priority over what we're doing. If it doesn't, because our priority, our capacity is low, can we do this in the next sprint if it's not, that urgent or critical? So it helps to negotiate and plan that, and helps you to control that, because you know the capacity of the team, and you know that we're low in capacity, we might not be able to take it in and all that. It helps to do that. And then it also helps to have better allocation of tasks. So like I said, in a situation where you have a shared resource, you don't expect the person that is a full member who can do more. You won't give that kind of person, you won't assign that kind of person the same amount with somebody that is a shared resource, who has maybe 40 or 50% availability for the team. You won't give them the same, amount of work to do. So it helps you to allocate your task or workload better in the team, or for the tech lead to do that, because they would be the one that normally does that, for them to do that. So, and then other, like I've said, there are other ones that I just want to bring in also, which you can see these are the essential ones, but it's not limited, to this one. We've talked about it improves our planning and our delivery. I've talked about that earlier on for both the Scrum Master and the ADM. It helps you to optimize your resource allocation during the sprint. I've talked about that. It helps us to minimize over committing and under committing. And then it helps you also to improve adaptability to changing requirement. That's the scope creep that I talked about, the increase that comes in. It helps you to, improve how you control that. We know that with Agile, it's all about adapting to changes that comes during that comes in. But how you adapt also goes a long way. So that we won't say, oh, because it's agile, it's about agility, we respond quickly to changes. When the changes come, we just take it. When the changes come and we take it and we're not able to deliver, is worse than when we meet with the product owner to plan properly. So if it is critical, yes, we'll respond to it quickly to do it, but something needs to give for us to be able to, attend to that critical requirement that is coming in so that we're able to deliver and still able to do other things that we can manage to do. Okay. And then it boosts real-time decision making. So let's assume that we started, like I said earlier on, somebody was sick and then the tech lead or the scrum master got to know, person sends a message in the morning, oh, sorry, I won't be able to come in this morning, I'm not feeling well and everything. At stand up, we're planning, what is this person working on? Is this person working on anything that is critical at the moment and all that? Yes, he's working on this critical thing. Who can take that, to do? What is your own workload? What is your capacity and everything? That the new person taking up that critical work is sizing it up. Okay, so this will take me an effort of for me to be able to finish this and all that. Okay, and because I need to finish that, I might not have enough capacity left to do what I am doing. And then you're negotiating again with the product owner. Product owner, this has happened and all that. This person is picking this priority work in order to do because the person working on it is not feeling well, is not coming in and all that and everything. So initially, most times it depends on when the product owner needs that thing. So if it's something that is happening live, on prod, definitely that needs to be picked up immediately. If it is one of the works that we want to target to finish at the end of the sprint because it's needed at the end of the sprint, they can still leave that one day, hoping that that person is just sick for one day and will be back the next day. But if that person gets in touch again to say, I'm still not feeling well and all that, then at stand up, you're planning who needs to take that work up so that it might be finished by the end of the sprint when it is needed. Okay, so it helps you to plan real time because that's real time decision making that needs to be done. It helps to boost the planning of that also when you know the capacity, and then it enhances resources risk management. Okay, so like for the example of the person that is not a full member, you're meeting with that person and you're trying to have a conversation about their capacity, your resourcing, and that's your ADM. You're doing resourcing. I talked about resourcing with other team also. So it's not just your team, or the capacity of your team for a particular sprint and what needs to be delivered, and other departments that needs to align with what needs to be delivered. You're also, managing their resources to say we need somebody from your team and all that to deliver this. Oh, we don't have that person, or we can't give you anybody the first week of the sprint, maybe the second week of the sprint. So you want to ensure that your own developer and testers do their own testing based on the coding that needs to be done before the other person comes in to do what they need to do by the second sprint, so that maybe at the end of sprint, that feature or that component is ready to be delivered. So these are some of the benefits of planning a team's capacity. And then we just want to look quickly at some of the factors that affect it. I said there are some factors that you need to consider when you're planning your team's capacity. The first one is the default distribution. So your default distribution is the standard hours you're expected to work, as an employee in any organization. You resume 9, you close by 5, Monday to Friday, you total those hours. So how many hours do you do per day will be your default distribution. And then you're looking at the Scrum event. So for the Scrum event, you're looking at the times you spent for all your Scrum events, your ceremonies that you have, your sprint planning, daily stand-up, review, retrospective, because it falls within the sprint, isn't it? So you want to, those times also affect your capacity planning. Other meetings also affect your capacity planning, which are outside your Scrum ceremonies or your Scrum event. You're looking at trainings, people go on study leave. You're looking at ad hoc meetings because your three amigos and all that is one of your ad hoc meetings, and it doesn't fall within your Scrum ceremonies. There are other meetings that need to be done and all that. It might be that the developers have their own group, and maybe the head of technology just wants them to go for a particular training based on a system or IT upgrades that the company wants to be using. Those are other meetings that comes in, or they need to upskill a particular team members, upskill their ability to work, and they are sending them on trainings. These are all the things that will affect your capacity planning that needs to be considered. You look at team holiday. Team holiday is something like bank holidays. You look at individual full day off. So these are team members day off or partial day off. Oh, I'm taking the morning off, I'm taking the afternoon off. All those things, you think about it. And then you're looking at the focus factor. So the focus factor is the focus time that the team members actually spend on what they're doing, the time they're actually coding, or the time that the QAs are actually testing, or the time that the DAs are actually analyzing, or the cybersecurity guys are actually carrying out their role, their task. Those are your focus. That's their focus time. And all these are part of the things you need to consider when you're planning your team's capacity. Okay, so this is another illustration that I quickly want to use. So this whole cup, let's assume this cup is all the requirements that the product owner wants us to work on, full from the bottom all the way to the top. Those are all the things that the product owner wants us to work on within the 2 weeks. Looking at the focus factor, now you start taking things out. Okay, so from here to the end will be the hours for the ceremony, and when that is removed, this whole cup will start coming down. So that is what needs to be done. Other meetings, like I said, conferences, ad hoc meetings, trainings, and all that would also be taken out. Holidays that fall within the sprint, that will be taken out. Those, like I said, bank holidays and all that falls within the sprint, that will be taken into consideration, will be taken out. Those hours of the day for that will be taken out. Planned holidays for team members, that would be taken out. Team members availability on other projects, if you have a borrowed resources, that also would be taken out. And then the focus factor also comes in, like I said, is the time that they spend. So they're taking, I want to take a break, they go and drink water, lunch time, all those things, study time and everything, all those will be taken into consideration. So imagine this workload that the product owner wants us to do. By the time you do the planning, and maybe from here, based on the data that you have, the details that they've given you, which are these pause in all these states are all the data. By the time you remove that, imagine if we remove from here all the way to the bottom, what is left would be from here to here, and that is the time that they can use to work. So if the product owner has given a full work that this is what we want to do, then you as a scrum master is negotiating to say, but this is the capacity that we have. We can't use this little capacity that we have to do all this work that you've brought in. And then the product owner will now need to prioritize and bring in work based on priority. Okay, if that's the case, then do da 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 da. That's why this can't happen to the product. The product owner can't know about capacity planning during the sprint, because during the sprint planning, because at sprint planning already, he had already told the client or the end user, this will be what will be delivered at the end of 2 weeks. So they need to know ahead so that they also go to do negotiation with the end users or the client or the stakeholders to say, oh, we won't be able to do that because of the capacity of the team, but at least these are priorities that we can do. Is that okay with you? So the stakeholders knows what is coming. They expect, they have been prepared about what they would get at the end of the sprint because you have planned the capacity. Okay. So we want to go into a practical one. We're going to use our sprint one, which started on Tuesday. That's why I put the date there, just to make it as real as possible for us. Excuse me. To make it a bit real for us. So we'll be picking all those factors one after the other so that you can see how it affects the total that we have at the beginning, and then what we will have if we factor all those, if we consider all those factors that has been listed earlier on. So the first thing you want to do is to know your sprint duration on your calendar. So we know that your sprint one starts on Tuesday and is going to end on Monday the 14th. So 10 days. So that's your 10 days. This is your first week and this is your second week. Okay. And once you know that, the next step you want to take is to know your team members and the roles. Okay. So now when you're planning capacity, you can plan capacity for the people that are doing actual development work. So we are all in the team, the Scrum Master, the ADM, the BA, and all that, they are all in the team. Okay. But the people that are actually doing the work are the developers and the testers. Okay, so DAs, data analysts, are seen as developers. If they are carrying out any data analysis, any data migration or data upload during that sprint, if that's part of the requirement of work that needs to be done, then they're being seen as a developer. So John might be a software developer or a data analyst. The same happens also to for the cyber guys also. If there's any, like I said, if there's any security issues and all that that needs to be looked into and all that, they might fall into that, that role also, where but they would need the team to develop for us to see how they can tighten security, so to say. One of the examples is the one that I've talked about. Encryption is one of the things you do, especially where data is involved and there will be uploading or migration of data and all that. Definitely they might need to encrypt who sees what, who gets permission to see what, and things like that. It's part of what they do with compliance team. The data, I think they work with the data protection team also in the organization to get that done. Okay, so you need to know the team members and the roles. Now you can see that the BAs is not on this list and the Scrum Master is not on this list because you don't do coding. The BAs write the requirements that need to be coded. They don't do coding and they do UAT, yeah, but they don't do testing. So their UAT happens after development, not during development. Even though we have it on the board, you can see that it comes in after QA done. And what they are testing, the QAs test functionality, technical functionality. The BAs test users, they carry out user testing. They look at the user flow. Is this thing flowing, the user way, the way we've written in the user story, the requirement? That's what they are testing. They are not testing functionality. Oh, I clicked on it, it didn't go where it's supposed to go. Oh, I clicked on it, it blinked before going. I clicked on it, it took 3 minutes before going. That is technical QA things to test. The BAs would click on it. If it's taking 2 minutes, they'll think it's normal. Just like any end users also will think it's normal. But some end users, that's not quality wise, because you want your end users to click on a link and it takes them immediately. So loading times and all that and everything is what the technical bits that your testers, your QAs are testing. So they are testing technical functionality while the B is just testing the end users, experience and process through. That's the UAT that they do, which the QAs might not pick up because they are not looking at the end users, but they are just picking the technical bit. That's why your UAT needs to come in also at the end of both development and testing. Okay, so that's why we don't have the BAs here, because like I said, they are not developing or testing, the requirement or the technical bits that needs to be done. So these are the set of people, your developer and your tester. And like I've said, your DA is part of that developer. Okay, so we won't put, oh, Chris, DA. So he's seen as a developer already, because he needs to do some coding in order to do the data migration that needs to be done. They need to use a formula to do that also. So that's that's what you need to identify first, and then you need to identify the allocation. So now if you look at the third column where the allocation is, you can see that from John to Gerard, we have full team capacity. That's why you're seeing them as 100%. So they are giving their own 100% capacity or availability to the sprint. However, Agatha, who is a tester, is a borrowed resource. That's why she's giving you just 50% of her time or of her availability for the project. And those are some of the things. So in a situation where John is 8 hours per day, Agatha will be 4 hours per day. She won't do 8 hours per day because she's a borrowed resource. Our other 50% maybe is being used on another project. Okay, so at the end of the day, you're looking at everybody having 52 hours per day or 520 hours per sprint. Okay. So once we know that, that's the first bit that you need to sort out, and then we now open it up. So if you look at it here, what we've just done is we've done per day, and then we've done per sprint. But remember, we have a calendar. So let's assume that we open our calendar up now, okay? Because you want to start factoring in your default distribution. That's the first factor to consider. So for default distribution, we still come to the same total. Per day is 52 hours, and for the 10 days, for the sprint, you'll have your 520. Now you will know in a little while why we needed to open things up, because we need to factor in the holidays and other things now. So that needs to be factored in. So that's when we bring that in. Please excuse. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so we want to note all this down. And then so this sprint, we have a bank holiday, let's assume, because I just want us to know how to factor in all these things into the holiday. So next week, Tuesday, let's assume is a bank holiday, which means is a 0 hours day for everyone. Yeah, not just one person, because it's bank holiday, is a team holiday. So it's for everyone. So you can see that the 8 hours that has been recorded in the previous, let me quickly go there. The 8 hours that has been recorded here, if there was no bank holiday, we've had to take it out of here. Okay, so that for that day, it's 0 hours. And then you can see the total sprint from 520 going down to 468, because these hours that has been removed for everyone has been factored in. The 52 hours here has been deducted from the 520 to give you 468. Okay, that's when you factor in the bank holiday. Now let's see when we factor in team members, either full day or partial day off, when you factor that in. Okay, so James has taken 2 days off. On Monday the 7th, he's taking a day off, and also on Wednesday the 9th, he's also taking another day off. Okay, so because he's taking that day off with the bank holiday, you can see that his own hours per sprint has reduced from 72 to 56. So initially the whole per sprint for each person is 80 hours, because it's 8 times 10. But because of the bank holiday, we remove 8 from that 80, you get a 72. Now he's taking 2 days off to reduce his hours for the sprints again to 56. So another person that has taken holiday, Mary, took an extra day to the bank holiday, so she's 64. Michael has taken half day here, just half day for the sprint, and his own total now is 68. And I think Chris also has taken half day around 11th, another 68. So Gerard has not taken any other day off apart from the bank holiday, so he still has 72. And then Agatha, who is the borrowed resource, has also taken 2 days off apart from the bank holiday. Is taking also 1 day off. So 4 hours is taken on the 10th of July, which will be the Thursday, next week Thursday. So that has reduced our own hours also to 32. So you can see that from 468 for just when we remove the hours for the bank holiday, by the time you remove their individual full day or partial day off, you've come down to 432. You can see it's reduced further because all these factors needs to be put in place. Okay. And then if we go to the next page now, sorry, this is just a double slide. We will now want to factor in the Scrum event time because we need to deduct that also. So refinement is done twice in the sprint. So a refinement was planned for Friday and another refinement planned for the next Friday, 60 minutes each. So that's 120 minutes, which is 2 hours in the sprint for a refinement session. And then your sprint planning starts at the beginning of the sprint, which is 2 hours. So that is factored in also. And then you have your daily scrum, 15 minutes every day, which you won't have again on the day of the bank holiday, but 15 minutes all through the sprint and all that gives you 2.25 hours for the whole sprint. And then the review, your demo also is 2 hours at the end of sprint. You factor that in. Your retrospective also is 1 hour at the end of sprint. That is factored in. So at the end of that sprint, where all the hours for your scrum ceremony comes to 9.25 hours. And that also, you need to factor in. Okay. Then we quickly want to look at other meetings also. So let's assume there are Scrum coaching sessions like you're having tonight. There's a Scrum coaching session that has been put for Monday evening for 2 hours. That is there. So that needs to be worked out. If there are training for team members, maybe a whole training for the whole developers and all that, that has been factored in for this is Thursday, 2 hours. You'll put that in. If team members, like I said, have study leaves and all that, their study leaves normally will come as part of their individual holidays because it's not affecting the whole team. So these other meetings affect the whole team, okay, not just the one person. So if one person has a training, they might not take it as their annual leave, but it's their time off, a day off and all that. So that's why we use the word day off rather than annual leave, because it could be for training, it could be for holiday, it could be for anything. But that would have been calculated as their day off, as a team day off, rather than an individual team member day off, sorry, rather than a team. But these ones I'm talking about are trainings that includes almost everybody, maybe all the keyways, all the developers, or even both keyways and developers. There are some meetings that the whole organization have, end of the year meeting that the CEO wants to talk to everybody for 2 hours, for 1 hour. All those ones are factored in as other team that falls within the sprint. Let's remember the fall within the team. And then all these other meetings, remember, they might not happen every day. So it won't be every sprint that the Scrum Master coaches. It won't be every sprint that they have trainings, but we're just saying that let's assume that this falls into this particular sprint where this is happening. Okay, so that's another 4 hours that would be going out. And then we'll look at the next slide to put in our fixed factor. Okay, so the Scrum event, that's your Scrum event, the 9.25 hours. And then this is the other meeting, the 4 hours. You put that against everybody's name. So remember, after removing all their holidays, their individual holidays, team holidays, and all that, this was the hours, the total hours for the sprint that we have for everyone. Okay. Remember, that was when we got to the 432. Now, to get the available capacity for the team, to get the team's available capacity, we need to remove the hours for the Scrum ceremonies and other meetings. So you're deducting these 9.25 and 4 from everybody's time. And this is what you get at the end of that for everyone. So from 432, you can see that by the time we remove the hours for Scrum ceremonies and other meetings, it's coming down to 339.25 hours total for the whole team. And remember, we started from 520. but because we need to put all these factors in, all these hours in and remove them in order for us. So this is the available capacity. So for you, the formula for you, you can put it that way, to calculate the team's available capacity, yeah, that's what you have at the bottom here, will be their sprint availability after deducting their holidays and all that. So this is their sprint availability minus their scrum event and the other meetings would give you the available capacity, which is what we have here. All right, so we go further to the next sprint. Now we need to calculate the focus factor, which will help us get the real capacity. Remember, what we have is the available capacity, but what is the real capacity? We need to know the real capacity. Remember that when we looked at that cup filled with things, we saw the focus factor and we saw the aspect of taking breaks. So at work, you will take a break, isn't it? They will take a break at work or to have their lunch. At times they stand up to stretch. At times they stand up to go and make coffee, tea, and all that and everything. That needs to be factored in. And we use a percentage to factor that in so that we have the real. So the available capacity is different from the real capacity. Available capacity is the time that you're in the office. Yeah. But remember, when you're in the office, that's when you take your break also. So we need to factor all those breaks, take tea, they go downstairs to take a smoke and all that and come back to work and everything. Because your focus factor is your focus time that they are actually coding. They are not standing up. They're just, at their seats, they are doing the coding. The testers are actually testing. That is what you want to factor in. And what we do, again, if we look at our column, is their available capacity, which we've been able to get here because we deducted the scrum ceremonies and the other meeting hours from their sprint time after removing all the holidays. And then we got the available capacity here. Now, for us to work what the focus factor, how we come about this 74% here is the formula that we have here. So here the formula is saying for you to get the focus factor, you're going to do the team standard available capacity. So how many hours are these people actually, kind of employed for? How many hours per day is 8 hours? That's the distribution by default factor. So it's 8 hours and all that. So which gives you 80 for a sprint. So, and you divide the available capacity, which is here. You will also have to approximate any decimal that you have. And then you have the team standard available capacity divided by their standard hours, the 80 hours, and then you multiply it by 100 in order for you to get the focus factor. Now, the available capacity for this team, for everyone, if we just look at just the bank holiday, the available capacity for everyone is 58.75. Remember, John and Gerard are the only ones that didn't have any individual full day off or partial day off. It's just the bank holiday, which you can't put on anybody. It's a bank holiday. It affects everybody in the organization. Okay, so and that was why their own time, sprint time, came down to 72. Okay, because the only thing removed from that 80 is just the bank holiday, the 8 hours of the bank holiday, and then we're removing the scrum event time and the other meeting time to come to this 78.75. So if you approximate that, it will be 79 divided by 80, which is the standard hours that they do at work, multiplied by 100. Yeah, will give you 73.75. Again, just approximate it to 74. And that is how we come by that 74. So that 74 will be used for everybody. So you won't be working out a focus factor for each person. Your focus factor is for everyone, including the ones that are taking individual or partial day off. That is what you use to do that. And now to get their real capacity, that's the formula for real capacity here, would be their available capacity, which you have here, multiplied by their focus factor. So if you do 58.75 times 74% for each person, it will come to their number here. Remember, the available capacity is different. The one that is the same is just their focus factor. Okay. And then you come to the number that you have here. Now, this is the hours they have per sprint. 251. We're coming from 520, remember? And then per day is 27.83. Because remember, the time for Agatha will be different because she's borrowed capacity. So that's why you have our own. So that means our own time for the sprint is 13.87 for the whole sprint. You just have 13 hours for the whole sprint. Okay, so that is the realistic capacity for the team is 251.01. That is what you have. And then per day would be, the total per day would be this. Remember, from the available capacity of 339, we'll come to the real capacity now, which is 251 because the focus factor had been put in. Okay, so this is just to show us that if, let's assume that there was no bank holiday, there was nobody, no team member took an holiday, this is what you will have. So it will be the 520 for everyone, and what you're just removing is their scrum ceremony, which you still need to remove, deduct from the total, and the other meetings. And then you come to available capacity. Everybody will have the same available capacity apart from the borrowed resource, who is having 50%. Will have that. And then the focus factor will go up because there was no bank holiday to 84. So if you use that to multiply, this is what you will get. You will get a total of 358.89. Let's just say 359 hours for the sprint. And per day would be 5.6, which again approximately is 6 hours. So you're looking at, everybody will have 6 hours apart from the borrowed resources, who would have maybe 2 hours to spend with the team because she's a borrowed resource. Okay, so that's what the real capacity would look like for the sprint and per day if the team, there was no bank holiday and nobody took time off. You can see that you have more hours to work than if there have been holidays and all that. And this is why you plan your capacity to know the available hours that your team members, either individual for a day or for the whole sprint, has in order to do the work that they need to do. Okay, so the location of this on your project board is on your sprint board. So on your sprint board, there is a place there where you have capacity at the top. Okay, so where you have capacity at the top, if you open that page up, you go in there, you've put everybody's name there. If there's a bank holiday, is recorded against team day off. That's where you will record that. If there are individual holidays, you're going to put that against their days here. If you click on it, if you go on it together now, if you click on it, it opens up and gives you the days. And then you're able to pick the days that the person is off and all that and record that against it. And Azure DevOps would do a calculation, but you need now capacity per day. Remember that if, let's assume there were no bank holidays or anything and all that, the capacity per day would be, let me just go back to that one that has 80. The capacity per day will be approximately 6 for everyone. If you're looking at everyone that has an holiday, because you've done this spreadsheet, you've worked it out, you're able to put everyone's available capacity in there. So maybe for John, his available capacity will be approximately 5 hours. For James, it will be approximately 4 hours. For Mary, it will be approximately 4 hours because this is not up to 5, so you can't, approximate it to 5. For Michael, it will be approximately 5 hours, and so on. And you are able to put those numbers in here where you have capacity per day. Okay, you're able to use that to calculate what needs to be done or their capacity per day. Okay, so on the project board is on the location is from your project board to the sprint board, and then you have capacity at the top here. That's where you can record your team's capacity after doing the calculation on a spreadsheet or thereabout. Okay, so quickly a recap of the things you need to do. So the first step is you need to know your sprint duration. Okay, you need to also list out the members and their roles, the people that need to be, you need to calculate their capacity. Like I said, it's just your developers and your testers. your DA is also seen as a developer. Okay, so they will be on that list also as that. Your cybersecurity person also is seen, can also see them as a developer, especially if they have one or two things to do. Like I said, encryption wise or any security thing that needs to be done with what you're working on, they also needs to be factored in on your capacity planning. The only people that won't be there will be you, the ADM, the Scrum Master, and the BA. Please note that your capacity planning is not a timesheet for the organization. That's where you would come in. That's where everybody would come on. But the capacity is just for the people that are technically, carrying out development testing work during the sprint. And then the steps 3 is for you to know your team members' allocation in percentage, resourcing wise. Is this person a full team member, which will be 100? Is this person a borrowed resource? If it's a borrowed resource, what is the agreed percentage that is giving your team? Is it half of his time, more than half, 60, 70? Then that's what you will use to calculate their capacity. Your fourth step is to know the standard working hours in days and in sprints. You need to now consider all those factors that would affect your planning. The varying one is not fixed. The varying one is the team holiday, individual day off, and partial day off needs to come in. And then the fixed one will be your Scrum event ceremonies and other meetings. So a tech lead might be meeting with the all his team members apart from the Scrum event. The tech team might be meeting regularly, which will be a fixed meeting, maybe twice a week or thereabout, to know where they are with things, who is doing what and all that. That would be a fixed meeting. They might have some other meetings that are fixed and all that. That might be there. But if there are varying meetings and all that, also those are fixed factors that you want to consider. And then you do your calculation based on all the formulas to get your focus factor, to get your available capacity, and also to get your real capacity at the end of your calculation. Okay, so any question, that will be where we stop tonight. And then this is just a recap of the calculation that I was talking about. So remember your sprint hours is your standard hours times the sprint duration. So the standard hours is 8 hours per day. The sprint duration is 10 days. So your sprint hours will be 80. That's 8 times 10 to get 80. Your available capacity, like we said, is your sprint hours minus your Scrum events and other meetings. Your focus factor is your team standard available capacity divided by your standard hours, then multiply by 100 to get the percentage of your focus factor. Then the real capacity is the team member available capacity times your focus factor will give you the real capacity. Okay, so those are just a few recaps for you to remember. Any questions from anyone? So that will be the end for the section. Okay, so I know it could be a bit full on, but like I said, most times when you've done it the first sprint, the second sprint, the third sprint, you might have a rough idea, if there are no holidays, what the team, the team members excuse me, capacity is, but you still want to check, because of holidays and all that. In a situation where there are no holidays and all that, you don't need to work it out, because maybe you've worked it out before. Maybe sprint 1, there was no bank holiday, nobody went on holiday and all that. And then you know that, approximately 6 hours per day for everyone. So if you're having sprint 3 and there is no bank holiday, nobody went on holiday again, you don't need to do the spreadsheet all over again. You know that you've had it once in sprint 1 and you know what it is. It's only when you have people taking time off, there are bank holidays and all that, that's when you now need to do the workings, do the calculations that you need to calculate to get your team's capacity for the sprint. Right? Any question from anyone? Feel free to watch the video again, please, and practice. Just open a spreadsheet, put your team members, the ones that you need to work their capacity, put it there. Like I said, don't mix capacity planning with normal work time sheet. Everybody has a work time sheet that maybe their line manager knows about, depending on how each organization does their own time sheet. So my organization, they collect it at the end of the every week. They collect the time sheet, you put your time in and things like that, and they know how to know if you were, you worked or not based on your laptop, setup and everything, and your holiday that you've put in and things like that. So don't mix them together. They are two different things. The organization is the one that manages the timesheets, not you. What you manage for your team is the team capacity in order for you to plan, work that needs to be committed, what that can realistically be achieved or committed to and delivered at the end of the sprint. Okay. If there are no questions, Nana, you can stop recording.